Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Story Two-Face and welcome to my spoiler review of X-Men Apocalypse. I'm a big X-Men fan. To be honest, it's difficult to find someone who doesn't like at least one of the X-Men films. Big fan of the first one, huge fan of the second one. Third, big fan of First Class. Days of Future Past I enjoyed, however, in terms of the X-Men universe, I wasn't as sexually aroused as most X-Men fans would be about the thought of seeing the old X-Men versus the younger version of themselves. I thought the story was fine, it was great fun, it was very dramatic. However, because it had so much to do with time travel, I'm judging that as very much as an entity within itself. Even though during Apocalypse they do make references to Days of Future Past, particularly with Magneto in the stadium. I enjoyed the film, for the most part. However, there were things about it that really did annoy me. My biggest annoyance has to be the timelines. Now, this isn't even as an X-Men fan. I don't know anything about the comic books. I know a little from my memory as a kid watching the animated series. I know the films, so just going on the films, the 6 films are sort of one package, as it were, even though most fans have dismissed X3 because it's a bit too OTT, and personally for me, I tried to dismiss Days of Future Past because it's his own entity, like I was just saying. I find it really arrogant on the part of the producers, Bryan Singer, and the writer, Simon Kinberg, off the top of my head. It's very arrogant of them to just say, oh no, don't worry about that, you know, what happened in that other film, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. That shouldn't be their decision to make. In my opinion, it shows a lack of ability to write a good story because they can't find their way around the problem, a lack of loyalty to the characters because it screws up their entire timeline, and then the fans are sat there going, well, which version of the character do you want us to believe? The one from X-Men 2 or the one that you're portraying in X-Men Apocalypse? So to give you some examples, the first meeting in X2 between Mystique and Nightcrawler shows that Nightcrawler is almost in awe of Mystique and her ability to pretend to be anybody she wants, but she says, why should I? I shouldn't need to have to do that. They've got some nice little moments together. In Apocalypse, they act as if they've never seen each other before. Exactly like they do in X2. In X2 they say they've never met before, they don't know each other, yet this, set in 1983, all those years ago, you know, they haven't met at this point, so how could they not have met in X2? Another one is the cameo, of course, of Project X. This timeline, again, is a little bit confusing. In X2, we see flashbacks from Wolverine running out of the military base owned by Stryker, where he does all his experimentations over at the lake. We see him running out, you know, completely naked. Yes, ladies, I know you enjoyed that bit. With his new adamantium claws, he's covered in blood, he doesn't know what's going on. Yet in this film, albeit an amazingly cool cameo, the timeline's screwed again because we see him running through, killing everybody, and then he meets the mutants by the door, Jean Grey and everything, and then she does something to his brain and he runs off. The way I saw that little moment between Jean Grey and Wolverine is that she has calmed his brain. However, you can say that maybe Jean Grey made him forget that initial moment or plant a new memory in his head that he didn't see them at all. That is a perfectly valid argument. That's not an argument that I didn't think of until after I left the theatre. At the exact moment, I thought that she was just using her powers to calm him down, so that he could focus and get himself back on track once he's escaped into the wilderness. 6 of one, half dozen of the other there, that's just a matter of opinion. The other one, of course, is the character who I will come to call Guy with Wings, which I will go into in more detail very shortly. In X3, which would be set present day, which would be 2008, 10, whatever, he has only just sort of really got his powers, and he ends up jumping out of the window and flying away over the queue of mutants that are queuing up for the cure. But in X-Men Apocalypse, he gets turned into Guy with Metal Wings by Ensaber Nur, who we will call him, for the sake of argument, Apocalypse, even though that name is never actually mentioned in the film, but it's just easier to say. Oh, and the other thing that was really, really awesome was I'm a big Metallica fan. For any Metallica fans that were watching the film, you definitely appreciate this, but hopefully the in-joke will be good for everybody else as well. So while the Guy with Wings was being made into the Angel of Death metal guy with wings, not death metal, death metal, the background music that they were playing was Metallica, The Four Horsemen, which of course was during the montage of gathering all the horsemen for Apocalypse together. The track that's in the background comes from an album called Kill 'Em All, which was released in 1983, which was also apparently when the film is set. Okay, so the reason I called this Guy with Wings is because it's been an annoyance of mine throughout a lot of the X-Men series. However, I've been willing to let it slide because this has never been a situation with such prominent characters and such leading characters. So as we go through the montage of Apocalypse going up to round up his Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, we never actually get any of these people's names. So I'm going to refer to the following as Guy with Wings, Woman with Sword, and this one I'll give the benefit of the doubt only because we know her from the other X-Men films, and it's fairly obvious that her name could be Storm, given what we know about her from previous films and what she does in this one. But what I don't understand is, why are these people so prominent? Why haven't they had their names mentioned at least once? Now, I understand from having to look it up that we've got Psylocke, I believe, is Woman with Sword, and Angel, an obvious name, and yes, I did know this, but I'm not saying it to make a point, that Angel is Guy with Wings, and then Guy with Metal Wings, I presume, is the Angel of Death or something like that in the comics. Again, don't know, not read them. So Apocalypse goes around, gathers up his Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, which include Guy with Wings, Storm, Woman with Sword, and Magneto. He then uses these Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse to go around and do his bidding because Apocalypse thinks of himself as a god. Now, this isn't necessarily anything to do with ego, this is all to do with the fact that because mutants were so uncommon during the times that we have the flashbacks to in biblical times or ancient Egypt, that because he's so new, because people are so new to the concept, they revere him as a god, and that's just how he takes. To him, that's his life. We then go on to develop the story as Apocalypse and his Four Horsemen, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, go on a rampage, and then of course we have Charles and Magneto sort of saying, oh, is this for the greater good? Is this what we're going to be doing? We're basically wiping out not only humanity but all the rest of the mutants. And you get that, you get a little bit of the tension between Magneto and Professor X as we go on in the film, but not really until the end. That was another thing that this film, in my opinion, lacked, was the head-on debates that we have throughout the rest of the films, with Magneto's ideology facing off against Professor X's ideology. You know, in the typical Malcolm X versus Dr. Luther sort of vibe. You know, violence begets violence, that sort of malarkey. That made the film a little bit more hollow, which was a bit of a shame. You tend to lose a lot of character focus the bigger a film gets. So if you're doing a film about the end of the world, you need the intimate character moments to keep it grounded, otherwise it just looks like a spectacle and it turns into a Roman Emmerich picture. Michael Fassbender, as always, is really, really good in this. I think he has some really, really good scenes, particularly two scenes, both of which, in my opinion, get spoiled right at the very end. I love the scene where his family got massacred, albeit in the reality of being able to shoot a wooden arrow on a short bow as opposed to a long bow through two human beings is probably very unlikely, but hey, we're in a film about a big blue guy that can rearrange atoms, so I'm going to give that the benefit of the doubt. So his family gets shot by a soldier with a wooden arrow. He is mourning them. It's powerful stuff, and then he does the typical and it's just a bit unnecessary. I think Fassbender is better than that. I think they should have just cancelled the line and let him do his thing. If that moment was scripted, they should cut it. It was too over the top for me. Just for my view, Fassbender is better than that. He's better at underplaying. He's better at the subtle things. Why make him scream at the heavens? Too OTT. Another scene which I thought was fantastic with Fassbender was after his family gets shot, he realises that his family and him were ratted out by one of the workers in the steel mill that he's working at. So he decides to go and take his vengeance upon said workers at this factory. He walks in, he does this brilliant spiel about who ratted him out, blah 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 blah. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Here, let me show you. And just as he's about to show everybody after this very heartfelt, emotionally charged speech that he does to these workers as he's about to wreak havoc, no pun intended, a wormhole, for lack of a better word, big purple wormhole opens and in walk Apocalypse and 3 horsemen, and basically he wants to recruit Magneto. Just as the portal, this wormhole opens, Magneto turns round and just seemingly for the sake of ticking a box for 12A or PG-13 in the States, he turns around to them and says, "Who the fuck are you?" Why use the word fuck? There is no reason except for the fact that they can, because they're shooting a PG-13 or 12A certificate film, and 2, because it might get a snigger, which it did from the cinema going audience that I saw it with, certainly. It is, however, nowhere near as effective as, or in character, as the go fuck yourself scene from Wolverine cameo in X-Men First Class. So why put it in at all? It's out of character, it's just ticking a box, it's unnecessary, and it does nothing to further it, and it's not humor. Why when you've got this huge expanse of universe, can you not think to write in a better joke than just throwing in a naughty curse word? It was lazy, it annoyed me noticeably, as you can see. Now I've got a couple more gripes, but first we're going to fill the compliment sandwich with a compliment. Bit of filling there. So far we've had sort of all the crap, and now we've got the nice bit of bacon that we're going to put in. So, loved the Wolverine cameo, or Project X as we know him in this film. Everybody thought the cameo was fantastic. It was, in my opinion, as good as, in fact probably better than the one that they had with him in X-Men First Class. What I love about it is the fact that it could have been any other mutant and it still would have worked. All it is, on the absolute face of it, if you've never seen any other X-Men films, is we see a guy who is Project X. We can put 2 and 2 together and work out he's a mutant, and he's obviously being experimented on, hence the name Project X, and he comes out with all these workings on him, all the metalwork and the things in his chest, etc. Could have been any mutant, and you still would have had the same emotional beats from the other mutants when they see him at the door before they let him escape, and it would have worked fantastically in exactly the same way. The only thing that gave it that killer edge was the fact that it was Wolverine. He doesn't say anything, just does a lot of screaming and killing, which, let's face it, are some of the best things he does. Now I've got one more bad point and one more good point to make, so we'll do the bad point first. It's a small bad point, but it did gripe me. Again, having not read the comics, I don't know if this is something that was a recurrent theme. Nightcrawler in the Michael Jackson jacket from Thriller was a really, really, really good joke. It was a really good joke. I loved it. What I didn't love about it was then the fact that he then proceeded to wear this joke for the rest of the film. And it seems that a nice throwaway gag must have to have been stuffed down people's faces. Faces? Throats, don't stuff things down faces. Stuffed down people's throats just to make a point and say, oh look what we did, isn't this clever? God, can't you see that young Nightcrawler kind of looks like that creepy Michael Jackson video in Thriller? We saw that, and yes, it was a nice gag for like 5 seconds, then get him to throw it away. It's all good. Why have it throughout the rest of the film? Is it because of the comic book? I would love to know, please, because if it is from the comic book, then I admire the fact that they stayed true to that and had him wearing the jacket. I want to end this on a nicer note, which was, I thought Oscar Isaacs was brilliant. One of the things that made him so brilliant, other than his seeming mastery of the ego that Apocalypse has, and all credit to the sound department, as far as I'm aware, they used 3 microphones on him. So they had one which was a bass mic, one which was a bass drum mic, and then the other one was just a standard mic. And they mixed all the tracks together to make this very almost disembodied deep voice, which just nailed the character. Apparently it was supposed to be to do with the fact that Apocalypse had absorbed so many souls over the centuries, that all these parts of him were also speaking when he speaks. Really brilliant touch. Anyway, so overall it wasn't too bad. I just had a few mainly plot annoyances. But thank you very much for tuning in. As always, my name is Story Two-Face. I've just sport you rotten. I hope you have a very nice day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.